Love to see the closest representation of the shroud that we've been willing to put off.
I'll show you some.
Oh, you've got some?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I'm pumped.
Okay, so
there was while you looked that up, there was some comedian, I forget if it was Brian Regan, who said that we don't get a sense of just how good these athletes are at the Olympic Games. Mm-hmm. Because they're all running next to each other and they're all really good. So what we need to do is get some fat guy like me from the stands and have them run alongside. Yeah. So I'm excited to see the comparison between what we've been able to accomplish.
No, it's great. I always love these guys when they try.
Give me a number.
Yeah, I'll pull it up for you now. I'm scrolling. So let's go to, which one does that say? 60?
60 of 63.
60 of 63. So this is one. There's some more as we scroll down, but let's do 60. So there are some that have said that the shroud, it's really bad. They call it, instead of the Shroud of Turin, I'm sorry, Lord, to say it, but the Shroud of Urine. Have you heard this before? No. Because what you can do is get this emulsion on a cloth. It's pass.
Very clever.
Yeah,
of urine.
But look,
it's not clever.
It's a bit clever, but that might be because I'm a dad. So dad jokes appeal to me.
Jokes.
Anyway,
so the theory here is that if you have a dark room, something like with a kind of photographic effect, they said, what if you had a body out in the sunlight and then, passing through this prism, see this little hole in the wall in the top right? And then what would happen is it would be projected, the image would be projected now upside down, and it would create a photo negative, and it works. Like, the amazing thing is it actually does produce the image of the body. Like, you put a statue out in the sun and it'll do that. There's I think it's National Geographic that has this guy in a white lab coat. I'm going to forget his name. I know it's Nichols. I think Joe Nickel. I want to say Joe Nickel. But he's a magician by trade, but he dresses up with a fancy white coat to present his theory to you, which I'm, at the end of the day, super happy about, because what he produces, though it's impressive, is nothing like the Shroud, because it has clear highlights. Look at the top of the feet. Mm-hmm. Look at the top of the hands, and then the shadow under the chin and under the hands. There are no highlights and shadows anywhere on the Shroud, and they don't tell you this in the National Geographic version, but that image can only last a matter of days. You expose it to sunlight, and it just disappears. And you have to think about, imagine a human body, anatomically perfect, in the sun for 4 days. That's how long you need in order to project the image. What does that body look like after 4 days? Like, the flesh is still hanging on the body. I don't know. And they have to turn it around and do it again for another 4 days to get the back of the body. Again, this is not going to show up in the literature, but that's because when you're making it, you have to realize that when you're watching a documentary, you gotta, who's paying for that documentary and what is their interest? It's not the same as peer-reviewed scientific journal articles that have to sustain the scrutiny of their peers in order to then. Okay, so that's one. That's if the Shroud were a photograph, a kind of camera oscura made by Leonardo da Vinci, they say, right, in the 13th century or thereabouts. No, never mind that he's born like 100 years later, but that's minor detail. Okay. The other one here is Garlaschelli here in the center, the middle, a kind of drawing. But again, we don't have anything soaked into the fibers. There are no brush strokes. There's no directionality. There's no way. I mean, impressive as it might be.
Still on 60?
It's still on 60, but at the bottom center,
the black and white.
The black and white. I believe that's Garlaschelli's image. This is
that looks almost like I thought that was the real one.
That's why I asked.
Oh, no. So the one on the right, we'll bring up the original so you can compare and contrast. But again, it's the chemical aspects, the chemical composition, and the microscopic level. That's where these utterly fail. These aren't surface phenomenon. Remember, we can only penetrate the 2 to 500 nanometers. They're not even remotely close at that level. Mm-hmm. Even if you think like artistically, they're convincing. This one is Emily. Oh gosh, I forgot her last name. It's like Cumming or something like that. But who thinks that it's a rubbing? You ever do like in kindergarten where you put a leaf under a paper and you like with a crayon, So it is impressive that it's also way too accurate, and it looks like a medical drawing or something like that. Mm-hmm. It's impressive, but again, it just doesn't have the characteristics that. What's really enigmatic about the Shroud is that even though it's been exposed to water, indeed, like soaked in water, such that there are water stains.
No.
There are water stains on top of the body image, and they don't obscure or dilute or mess up in the least the body image. Neither did the fire, right? So there are what you can see, and we should pull this up for the crowd here. Let's go to those first slides. I can't remember, what was it, like number 4 or so, that shows these, here, there's a good one, number 6, that shows the triangles that you see here, here, and here. They're kind of these symmetrical patterns. It's because the shroud was folded up. There's 4 dividing lines. So fold it in half right there in the center, then fold what remains in half, and then half again, so that the face is what remains. That would have been most interesting to those who wanted to show it off or venerate the shroud. And then, of course, you fold it along the long axis, and then you get the 4-folded garment. In fact, that's one of the names in history that we know of a linen cloth that bears the image of the Savior, the tetradiplon. It just means the 4-folded linen. Corresponds to the 4 folds we find on the shroud. But that's what creates these symmetrical patterns, because inside the shroud, once folded, is inside of a silver casing, and that in the fire melts down and singes the outer edges of the folded cloth. And so the result is this. The fire, however, did not destroy the body image. The high temperatures didn't mess up. That's absolutely the case with every painting that we know. The same could be said about scorching. Like one of the theories was that you take a statue, heat it up, put a cloth on top, and then like singe it, right? That would be a scorch. But again, it's the scientific data that's important here. If you look at the ultraviolet fluorescence, that would tell you where there's a scorch, and it's impossible that this is a scorch. Not improbable, but utterly impossible. So again, we can discard all of those attempts at reading the shroud are so unlike what we actually have that we should be able to say thanks, but no thanks. Like this is not a feasible way of thinking about the way the shroud image came to be.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe or you're a dingus. What's a dingus exactly?
Used to refer to something one cannot or does not wish to name specifically.
You don't have to subscribe, but if you did, I'd love it. You dingus.
Like the video. That's who we're using that one. Take one.